how did I get here? Well, I came seeking the middle of nowhere. But what I found was community. Is there community in the middle of nowhere? I think I have my answer, but it didn't start out that way. I relocated to the edge of the wilderness in southern Colorado in haste, having been disillusioned after trusting so-called friends, isolating myself with a palpable attitude of people suck. How did this happen? I grew up as an optimist, always seeking the potential for good in people. Being a preacher's kid, I inherited a great deal of social consciousness about changing the world, grandiose ideas that I believed in from very young. I had the heart of an artist and the philosophies of a pacifist. But in the end, my misplaced trust in people brought me to a place of despair. I built a small straw bale studio in this high alpine desert, and I endured my loneliness. But the beauty and quiet of the San Luis Valley has its own effect on the heart. There was life all around me, and I began to navigate through my cynicism and started to reach out. So I got on the radio. It may seem strange that an introverted cynic would brave getting on community radio, but that wasn't the half of it. Yep, that's me, juggling away at the big summer festival in Alamosa. You may think that making people laugh would be out of character for the picture I've painted so far. Sure, it's true that being a professional merriment maker helped me feel better, laughter, after all, being one of the best kinds of healing. But after 2 days of playing my alter ego, I returned to my life of self-imposed solitude. It was a stark change of perspective with devastating consequences. How could I feel so bad after making so many people feel so good? So I kept to myself and poured all my affections into my aging cats. But the valley wasn't done with me. And slowly the magic of the wilderness washed over me. Bit by bit, I started opening up to the good people that were all around me, and I started to juggle more. And being an entertainer does have its advantages. But ultimately, playing the fool masked my connection with the human race. So I started producing videos. It's creative and got me interacting more with people. But it also allowed me to continue my hermit ways, doing most of the work in my solar-powered studio, miles from nowhere. I still had a long ways to go in understanding the duality of my psyche. Then, something changed. In one's life, if you're lucky, there comes a moment of perfect clarity. My 8 days sitting with a dying friend in hospice was one of those moments. I've heard that in the end, you die alone. If that is the rule, I have witnessed the exception. I was left with a profound sense of what is important, and more importantly, what is not. My idealistic sense of how people should be faded, and I started to accept things for the way they are. I began to forgive myself for not being more than I am. I could not let this lesson be forgotten, and I had an overwhelming need to share what I had learned. So I wrote, though my words were inadequate to the experience. And then I took a chance and read my essay on the radio. It's a strange thing trying to share something so personal in such a public forum. But a listener stopped by the station and told me she had to meet this guy bleeding on the radio. Her name is Mary, and she shattered my world of isolation. But as profound as the lessons of the soul can be, the passage of time and my frustrations with people dampened the spiritual epiphany I had had at hospice. So I got to know Lois, the director of hospice in Alamosa, whose unborn grandson would be admitted to hospice the day he was born. Very sad. But once again, I felt a purpose in my creative life. These lessons from the dying must be told. Then I met Danny Ladoni, another local videographer. We taught a media productions class together for kids on campus at Adams State College. This was great. Working with a colleague and with youth opened me up to possibilities I had never thought possible for me. That I could be a mentor and a teacher. That I had something more to offer than just being an angry old man. My confidence grew, and the perfect job came my way. I was contracted to help set up a new commercial TV station in Alamosa.
We have a local television station?
I'm not aware you had one.
Did you know we had one? No.
I had always been good with technology, but this also forced me to get out on the streets and actually talk with people, to get involved with the local issues.
On Main Street, I introduced the subject with one word: trees.
And I even got to follow one of my passions by doing stories about the regional science fair.
What the kids gain as individuals is what's powerful about a science fair.
Here I was, a self-defined recluse, being transformed by doing productions for the TV station. But they also needed someone to produce commercials and find clients. My old nemesis, my fear of sales, raised its ugly head. Again, feelings of inadequacy crept in, and I withdrew from the specter of being a salesperson. But now I knew what I wanted to do: produce programs to promote people. So I started working with community partnerships. I learned what it meant to be an entrepreneur, and that sell isn't a four-letter word. That promotions was more about people than greed. So now, I got to help small business in the Valley and still have a show to air on local TV. A show connecting Adams State College with the communities of the San Luis Valley. And with community partnerships being so proactive, I even got to work on issues I cared about. I was at a fork in the road in my cynicism. Fortunately, next came Mission of Mercy. Like sitting with my dying friend years before, this event changed my life. It changed how I viewed the inherent good in people. It was a free dental clinic on a massive scale, bringing together volunteers from across the country. And once again, I got to work with my colleague Danny Ladoni. He arranged to have me videotape, and he edited. I got the better end of that deal because by being there, I really felt the effect these volunteers were having on people.
This is a wonderful thing, yes.
And then there's that little incident that Alamosa would love to forget: salmonella. Once again, I found myself being a part of community in ways I never dreamed of. And Danny encouraged me to document this moment in history, the shutting down of an entire town's water system. But as much as anything, this was a story about people coming together. Project after project, I was learning more and more about how this place I had fled to was healing me.
We've got a lot to do in the San Luis Valley, and this just happens to be one of the neat events that happens.
I created tourism videos, and that immersed me into all that the valley had to offer. Nature, parks, festivals, history, education, recreation, you name it, and I was there. I started to feel like this place was home. I find it amazing, the contrast I feel. Despite all my efforts to isolate myself by moving to the edge of the wilderness, despite the spiritual crisis that brought me to the San Luis Valley 15 years ago, my journey as a videographer has connected me to this community. And through the vast wonders and the natural beauty that surrounds me, I have come to believe that one person, one idea, can make a difference. That by disclosing who we really are, we can never really know when we will make an impact. So now I ask, is this really the middle of nowhere?